Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We are Team B of the Information Kiosk at Snug Harbor, and our group consists of Asher Thomas, me, Marlei Allain, Enrique Martinez, and David Aquije.
So here we have the table of contents of what we're going to be talking about. Project description, site analysis, principles for public spaces, present studies, preferences and needs, budgeting, programming and diagrams, and next steps.
In our project description, we believe that teammates should create a kiosk that is easily functional for the use of visitors and staff at Snug Harbor Cultural Center and Botanical Gardens. The kiosk should include the needs and preferences that are stated by the stakeholder. Now we're moving on to our site analysis.
Okay, so the first thing that we want to get into is just letting everyone know what Snug Harbor is in case you don't know. So from what we've collected, Snug Harbor is a collection of 19th century buildings in Staten Island, New York. The buildings were used to house retired sailors, but currently the buildings are being used for visitors to see the history and architecture of that time period. Okay, so next we decided to give you guys just an idea of the surroundings of the site. So nature-wise, there's a lot of greenery and a lot of gardens surrounding Snug Harbor. As we said previously, the site is located in Staten Island. Building-wise, there's a lot of schools, dining spots, parks, and businesses around the area, which I have located on the map so that you can get a better feel. And for movement and traffic, it is a high traffic area because of the diverse settings that are around it. So there's a lot of movement in and throughout the area.
To get a better feel of the area itself where the information kiosk would be placed in, we decided to take some images and post views of it. As you can see, pinpointed left side of the slide. So for the first one, we got a view of the kiosk. We also have the front view of the kiosk with the cultural center building in the background. Then we have the greenhouse view next to the kiosk, which is also known as the Carl Grillo Glass House. And our last image, we have the view of Sailor Snug Harbor Administration Building.
So why need a new information kiosk? So here we have a picture of really stand out to new visitors. So you won't really next slide.
Enrique's mic was a little muffled, so I don't know if you heard him. But just to go over what he said, he's just showing you the view of the current kiosk and letting you know why we need a new one, because as you can see, it doesn't really stand out and the space inside is quite cramped.
Wait, can you guys hear me clear now?
Yeah.
Much better.
So here we have the front part of Snug Harbor. So it's worth noting where to place the kiosk. Be enough like natural light inside the kiosk. We want to make sure like so position the kiosk.
Okay, so next we have the principles for public spaces. These are just some things that we think as a group we should keep in mind when creating the kiosk so that it's a good space for the visitors that are there and the staff. So the first two things are, how do you want the people to feel and how do you want the people to act? So based on how we're setting up stuff on the inside and just the emotions we want the people to convey once they're in the space that we're creating should take a toll on how exactly we're placing things inside the kiosk and even how it should look from the outside. Next, we have, what is the space to use for? So we know the space is going to be a kiosk where people are coming to get information about the site. So we want the kiosk to be specifically for that and keep that in mind when we're creating it. and how accessible is the space. So when creating the kiosk, we just want to keep in mind the bus routes, how people will be getting there, how people will be leaving the space, and things like that. And next we have our president studies.
So this is the official information kiosk located in the heart of downtown Manhattan, near the south side of City Hall Park. And I picked this specifically because it meets the requirements of the client. We want it to be COVID safe. And then the material, it's made of steel and glass. The steel to protect it from any weather that might move out of place, knock it down. We want it to be really reinforced. The oval shape at the top, the awning was also a requirement or a want that the client wanted. So it's kind of an artistic statement, but also can be used as protection for weather for people that go up to the kiosk when they need help to ask for information. And specifically the glass, if you look down at the image at the bottom, there are speakers in it, so there will be no contact with people that need any help getting directions.
Can I just ask may I ask questions as we're going through each of these precedents?
Oh, yes.
So going back, if you could, Marley, to the one that so I'm just curious, do we know how the person that's inside of that kiosk gets in and out?
I should have included a picture. There's a door on the back, the exact back side of the bottom picture, and then it's just one door, and that's
Yep.
how they get in and out.
And is there any chance to access the schematics for the inside of that? I'm just curious about if there's any other available documents that we might mind on this particular project.
No, not at the moment, but I know it's a 10 by 15, like a classic small size.
That's a lot to know right there. So thank you. That's helpful.
For my president study, I've done the research about the kiosk at Pavilion, which is a kiosk located in Fort Island at the Netherlands. It was originally a fortress that has been built sometime during the 18th century. It's made of bricks and wood, while also having a glass roof, although you don't see it in the image at the moment. And currently, it is now being used as a public bathroom as well as an information point for the entirety of the island it's located at. From my vision of the kiosk, I felt like the surrounding plants around the kiosk would be a pretty good inspiration, considering that our kiosk is going to be in a park as well. The materials that this kiosk has is fairly simplistic, and it gives us an idea possible options we could have within our budget, and that's about it.
This is also interesting as well, just as a comparison point, and plus I feel like this is probably a much lower traffic place, and it's much more utilitarian and without such specific functions. This is a really interesting contrast with the other. Thank you.
So here we have a portable prefabricated kiosk, and it opens like the paper fan since it is inspired by paper origami. And this specific kiosk does serve as a serving coffee information point or like a spot for DJs at events. And I feel like this kiosk is a modern looking kiosk that will like pop out to visitors if it is in Snug Harbor. Yeah.
I just want to comment that I love the idea that it can also serve coffee and that there's another utility in place here for the layering of hospitality. So that's pretty cool. I like that the other one serves as a bathroom. So those are two triggers for me that really heighten the utility for the public service that it can provide.
Okay, for our last president study, we focused in on the Cube Pavilion by OMA, which is located in Hong Kong. For this president study, we more focused on the outside design aspects of it and out things that we thought would be a nice to include in our kiosk for Snug Harbor. So the first would be the simple but very sleek design. I think this would add a nice contrast between the historical buildings that are at Snug Harbor, which would make the kiosk more noticeable to the visitors. And also basically the same thing with the color. The color would also help the kiosk to stand out because of its captivating color, which would also make a good component for it to be found in a location like Snug Harbor. And lastly, I pointed out that it's placed in a convenient location. From the picture, you might not be able to tell, but this kiosk is placed in front of a mall. So with that kind of traffic where you have the visitors coming out of the mall and being able to view the cube, you would get a lot of visitors coming to the cube.
I also like that there's a modular component where because it's a cube, it wouldn't necessarily be that hard to expand, depending if you did have additional utilities you could add on to this. So this is a cool design too.
This is our slide included by the client, our preferences and needs, as I said before. Weatherproof, to speak about that, Snug Harbor is by the coast, so it's going to be a little chilly. It's by a body of water, so the kiosk is probably going to need extra reinforcement lining on the inside to keep warm, safe wiring for things like a printer, a computer, so that it's like just put away safely. COVID safe, the glass. Also, as I said before, we want no contact, but we still want to be able to help the people that come around. And the area that the kiosk, the original kiosk was in, there's like a high traffic flow in that area. So we definitely want to double down on that. Safe placement, easy displays, low utility. We don't want to do too much with the kiosk because we are on a budget, but we just want to include every like necessities. And then the preferences: awning, swag sales, merchandise, maybe flyers or pamphlets to help people, a frame storage, a mini fridge, and interior lighting.
Okay, so this is our budgeting. This is not finalized, but just for us to get an idea of what we'd be getting into. So for the budget, currently we have the prefabricated kiosk and the awning. So in this kiosk that I'm gonna show, the awning is included on it, so that wouldn't be taken out of our budget. But I'll play the video so that you can get a better look of the inside and outside of this kiosk. And just to make it be known, we picked this one because it is also 10 by 10, which is what we were looking at. It comes with the awning, and as you can see from the inside, it has space for countertops and cabinets or anything extra we would need to put inside. And now we'll be talking about programming and diagrams.
So in this slide, uh, the functions of the information kiosk. It's not a self-serve kiosk. We definitely want people. We definitely want interaction. So helping visitors, printing documents, flyers, any maps, tickets, because there are events that go on in Snug Harbor. Using a computer, looking through cabinets, putting stuff in and out the fridge, eating and display. So display maybe on the outside, flyers for any events, or in on the inside, and they would have to ask us for that. And then next to it is a bubble diagram of everything that would go in the kiosk, just to give an idea of what it would look, not really look like, but what's just going to be inside.
We were basic a drawing of positioning where each of these programs would be located at. The front counter being towards the front, desktop, printer space being next to each other, having cabinets, mini fridge for the staff workers, and the 2 chairs for the 2 workers that'll be operating the kiosk.
Is there a chance with that? Can you go back to that last slide and can you just walk me through where the door and the awning is? Am I understanding that what would be north for us, or the top part would be where the awning and the window opening is? Is there a door that's on the left side of this? Like, can you just walk me through what, and also if there's electrical, where that electrical hookup is?
We don't have like a plan for the
Yeah.
electrical part yet, but the awning will be located front counter,
Okay.
in front of the front counter, and you'll see the entrance for the door to be next to the mini fridge.
Yeah, where it says entrance. Thank you.
Okay, so that would conclude our presentation, and for the next steps, we would be researching prefabricated kiosk providers, expanding and finalizing the interior design on AutoCAD, and also finalizing our budget. Thank you for listening, and if you have any other questions and concerns, we would hear them now.
I would love to hear anybody else's questions and concerns. I know that I would share with you that having worked for designers, you should always be ready for people to interrupt you in the middle of a presentation, and you might want to set kind of what that interaction looks like at the outset and let them know that you'll be making space for questions or comments at the end, or, you know, guide them through the process so that as they have questions, they know how to interact with you in a way that won't be disruptive for you with the client, right? The other thing I wanted to commend you on is the breadth of different designs. Snug Harbor is such a design heavy environment, but the built environment is definitely within a very particular time frame of building styles. And so having that breadth of approach, I thought was really great to really start the dialogue and get me visioning and in response to the thinking you've already been doing. I could also see that you'd listened from our first conversation about what our needs are. So I was grateful to see in the presentation how clear it was that we were starting from the same page in terms of what we're looking for, and to know that you were really hunting that down. And I really loved how polished the images were and the simplicity of the presentation. And I want to commend each of you. Enrique, yes, your audio was tough to hear, but other than that, I could tell that all of you were very literate in this and ready to have a conversation and to take more steps. So I really appreciate the work that you put into this and the quality of thought.
Thank you for the feedback.
Thank you. Sorry about the audio.
Don't be. It's like that's the world we're living in right now. We all just have to trust each other for these little missteps and not get shaken by them. But I just wanted to let you know, but it's certainly not a judgment, right? So just you might just want to, if you had heard the comment about your audio being muffled, you could take that moment with us and just do an audio check with us to make sure that you fix the problem, right? So those kinds of things for a presentation is remembering that we're all human and that this is, that you can fix it in real time with the people that you're in the room with.
One of the questions that I have for each of these booths, the only thing is that we often, last winter, we had a Winter Lantern Festival, and we had our visitor service associates in the info booth during, freezing cold weather. And so a number of the designs, it would just make me wonder, like, what components can we add to it for their, not just their comfort, but more so like their safety in regards to, like, if we have electrical outlets, are we able to put down 2 of the 3 awnings? This way we can conserve heat inside of there. If we're able to put in a small heater in there for really, for really hot days. I like that we have the open concept, because if there's a breeze, we can, or if we're able to put in some sort of a small fan or something, and, we can close the sides. So for me, I'm thinking about it just from the safety component We want to make sure that our staff that has to be in there for potentially for a few hours at a time are able to adjust, whether it be the sides or they're able to adjust for, you know, a proper temperature inside of the info booth. But I do enjoy, you know, I really appreciated a lot of the, even just like the simplicity of some of the designs, the cube one, because for me, it makes it visually, you know, visually for me, it makes it a lot, it's more appealing. And then I like the fact that a lot of times if we needed to do any types of adjustments or if we needed to add and you like change the inside space for more storage, that we have more room to work with there. So thank you.
And I have one more, since I'm actually in communication with our CEO right now, and I was sharing some of the work that you were doing. And her question was, are there any design elements that you would think to add on to here? Like, have you been thinking about how to put a layer on there that will take it from being a prefab to having it be something that's more dedicated to place and having branding components in place? So have you thought about that? And then the other question that I have, which is just a typical client question, is that the cost that you cited of $5,800, does that include labor? And have you done any of that kind of phasing or project work to look at the stakeholders and really what they're bringing to the table in terms of those resources?
I think I can answer the first question. Regarding like what can we add on for maybe like marketing advertising purposes. Um, do you know like the screen information kiosk is like self-service? Like,
At some points it would be, but majority of the time right now we're trying to have it be more of a center for ticketing and for information. So we're,
okay,
and also for small sales.
okay.
And just to be clear, both of those questions are almost could be leading to questions, right? And so there's no, don't feel the pressure in that regard. You could always just say, we're in discussion on that. We'll get back to you.
I think for the cost question, I think on that we would have to get back to you because the $5,000, that did not include the actual labor of the kiosk. It just included the price for the actual kiosk itself. For that, I feel like we'd have to do more research and get back to you on that.
Perfect answer.
Is that all the questions?
On my part, it is. Yeah.
All right, anyone else? All right, so thank you. And we'll move on to the next team with Yu Feng.